Then the Spurs get blown out. Just when I'm getting excited about the Spurs.
Right.
Then you and your Mavericks. Why do the Mavericks hate America? I got Fox News on in here. I saw them bitching about it, showing Mark Cuban. They found a new boogeyman for Fox News. His name is Mark Cuban. I'm going to write you something in the private chat, Shannon.
Okay.
Take me a second. Let's see. Yeah, I just sent it to you. Sometime when I'm talking to you, I'll tell you more about this, but you'll probably learn that over time. So I've kind of learned over the years to watch a little bit of that. Now, for you and me, however. Oh, and I don't know, and because we didn't plan on it, I told him only if you can. At 8:35, because he's a Mavs fan like you, we might bring in Tanner Carlson for. I have a feeling that'll be a recurring topic today. So maybe get Tanner's thoughts on the Mavs anthem thing. Let's see. What's happening out there? Woo! Got a pen in my pocket. I look like I'm a legitimate worker. Bernard Trefan says, no Spurs, no. Cody Webb, good morning, everybody. Good morning, Cody. Steve Duraco. Steve Duraco, did you see the weather forecast? Monday, 19 degrees for a low. 50% of snow. And I think it's like 60% in Austin on Monday.
It is a holiday, too.
Yeah, for everybody but us, right?
Right.
And what's the holiday? President's Day?
That sounds right. I think so.
I think that's what it is, yeah. But yeah, everybody in Texas will have the day off. You and I will try to make our way through the blizzard in this snow-strewn streets to get to work. I hate cold weather. Hate it, hate it, hate it. That's why normally pre-pandemic, every February during the All-Star break, I would go to Cancun and just sit on a beach in 85-degree weather for 7 days. Now I'm not going to fly an airplane until further notice.
Now, Chris Duel.
Welcome in on a Wednesday, February 10th. We got a lot going on in the world of sports. Dallas Mavericks. Shannon Salty Sweeney's favorite basketball team, other than the Longhorns. Okay, NBA team. The first team in American sports history since we've been playing the national anthem before sporting events. The Dallas Mavericks are the first team to stop playing the national anthem. It was a big story overnight. They did it without fanfare. They didn't call attention to it. They haven't played it all season. It's not like they stopped yesterday. They played like 13 games at home, and but now somebody, I guess, just said, "Hey, I noticed you guys don't play the anthem anymore." We will get into that. Texas Longhorns. Oh my God! All we were talking about yesterday was, "Well, Kansas State sucks, so it'll be a get well game for the Longhorns." Wow, it was close. It was very close. Longhorns escape with a win at Kansas State, but it was too close for comfort, and I have a feeling, Shannon, in fact, let's bring you in right away. I have a feeling you have not been all warm and cuddly with one Shaka Smart, and I got a feeling last night's game did not endear you to him any further.
He was so proud of the defense they played against Oklahoma State over the weekend. It was just offense that needed a boost. Came out strong on offense. Defense, they allowed Kansas State to score more points than they ever have in a first half this season.
Wow.
Texas also gave them their second highest first half score back in January when they first met. But clearly they can't just pull it all together. It's got to be something every night that holds them back. It's the same team. You never know what you're going to... I should not be getting score updates on my phone with minutes left to play that say close game between ranked number 13 Texas and unranked, lost the last 10 in a row games, Kansas State.
Yeah, upset alert.
Right.
Tune in. Yeah, right. Wow. And, we were talking yesterday, and again, my glass half full idea is, if the Longhorns can just get hot at the right moment, get hot in the Big 12 tournament, more importantly, get hot in the NCAA tournament, get to the Elite Eight, get to the Final Four. Hell, the Longhorns were ranked number 4 in the country just a few days ago. I know they're down to number 13 right now, and that performance last night at Kansas State, even though it was a win, is not going to water the eyes of any voters for the AP rankings. But while on one level, Shannon, I'm hoping for and obviously pulling for and want the Longhorns to go deep in the NCAA tournament, the flip of that is looking at the way they've played this year and looking at the way they played at Kansas State last night, the competition, even in the first round of the NCAA tournament, is going to be stiffer than Kansas State. It could go real bad. I mean, they could be booted on the first game. And, we had Tanner in here earlier in the week going, hey man, they might not even make the tournament. I think they do. I mean, at number 13 in the country right now, I think they do. I think there'd have to be a complete collapse for them not to. But, as you've mentioned, and you made a great analogy, is Shaka Smart equal to Tom Herman? You have, by other universities' standards, a winning season. You go to the postseason. You wind up, in Tom Herman's case, at a bowl game, and then you win it big, but still that was not enough. You did not meet expectations. It is looking more and more like, and the contrast, because they were looking so good at number 4 in the country, it is now looking like Shaka Smart and these Texas Longhorns are not meeting expectations.
Yeah, for a lot of people, just getting that win is enough for them to sit back and relax, because the wins are what matter to get you into the tournament. But to create longevity, you need to have a team that has it all together on all sides of the ball and all facets of the game. And Texas has just been all over the place these last 6 games. And now is the time it needs to come together. The season is the end of the season is quickly approaching. You need to have it all together. You can't play defense one game and offense the next game. It's one and done when you get into the tournament. You need to have it all together. And so for me, a game that should have been a blowout, there were moments when it looked like they were going to pull away last night, and then they just lapsed on defense, letting Kansas State back in. I mean, they both started off hot last night, and it looked like, are we going to be the ones to break their streak? Luckily, we weren't. So it's all great for the win, but to me, it seems like of the 9 lives Shaka has had so far, he's running out.
Yeah, I see our good friend Wes Perkins on Facebook Live. And if you're new to the show, we stream live video on Ticket 760 and AM 1300, the Zone's Facebook pages. There's also a YouTube video link that is live that you can see us. We put that out on Twitter as well, so you can find us that way. So Wes Perkins, and of course, as soon as I go to it, it scrolls out because we're getting other comments. Wes says the Longhorns are in the tournament. They've got too good a resume, still time to get it together. Now, Tracy Bogert, and again, I want to dive into this one, Shannon, and I have a feeling it's probably the hot topic in sports today. The Dallas Mavericks' choice not to play the national anthem. They become the first major professional sports franchise ever since we started playing the national anthem at sporting events. I'd have to Google that probably before I was born to stop playing it, and they've got their reasons, and we can debate it. But Tracy Bogert is in here on Facebook Live saying, do you really need to play a song to prove you're a patriot or carry a Bible to prove you're a Christian? I got a feeling, Shannon, there's going to be some intense opinion on either side of this issue. You're a Mavericks fan. Your thoughts when you heard this news, and your thoughts now that you've had an evening and a morning to digest it a little bit.
Yeah, because I didn't really hear about it until this morning, and I'm sure it's going to be the talk of the day across all networks and even those that aren't affiliated with sports as much as we are. But, you know, the league has the rule in place that they need to play the national anthem. But, of course, this year, given that most places didn't have fans, most still don't. They allowed those rules to be laxed a bit. So the Mavs haven't been playing it all season. Like you said, they never released a statement saying we're not going to do that. You know, they just weren't playing it. They had fans in the stands for the first night on Monday. Apparently no one brought it up then, but last night it was talked about, and now everyone's come to the realization, well, wait a minute. And Mark Cuban did confirm it was his decision, and that is his decision to make. I the first thing I think of is, well, they don't do it before a concert. They don't do it before a Broadway event. The sporting event is the only place I've ever been to with mass amounts of people where there's just this thing where we're all waiting for the game, and it's okay, please rise, take off your hats, put your hand over your heart, and sing the national anthem. And I've never really thought much of it. It was just kind of what you did, like you said, even before you think you were born. Like, it's just been the thing to do. And as we saw last year, the kneeling and it became so divisive that it's almost like, well, can it be divisive if we just take it out of play?
Yeah, and it's going to be what I think is going to be fascinating. And I've got Fox News on in the studio. And, you know, it's a huge story on Fox News, as you just said, Shannon, not just on sports talk channels across the nation on places like Fox News. It's a big story today. But I'm going to be fascinated to see. I mean, we're just like, 3 years removed from Colin Kaepernick taking a knee, and the president of the United States at that time calling players that took a knee those sons of bitches. Now you've got the owner of a major professional sports franchise doing this. However, we're also coming out of the year 2020. We're also coming out of the George Floyd murder last summer and the subsequent protests, and I believe more of an awakening in this country for points of view when people would like to protest peacefully and silently. And this is not necessarily a protest, and we'll get into the reasons why Mark Cuban may have chosen not to run the national anthem before Mavericks games this year, and apparently no plans in the future to bring it back. It's not a protest per se. It's a decision by Mark Cuban, the owner of the Dallas Mavericks. We'll get to it. Lots to talk about. I noticed, though, it's 6:20 right now. We do this a couple of times in the morning. We do it a lot throughout the day at 20 after the hour. We do it 12 times throughout the day between now and 8:20, both on AM 1300, The Zone, and Ticket 760. A chance for you to win a lot of money. It is the Grand in Your Hand cash contest, and here it is.
Give you money. Your chance to win $1,000 is right now. Text the nationwide keyword Bill to 200-200. You'll get a confirmation text and info. Standard data and message rates apply in this nationwide contest. Once again, that's Bill to 200-200. Good luck.
Good luck. Now, back to the Mavericks for a moment. Well, and before we do that, the guy who just played your grand in your hand cash contest, I'm always late to introduce him, so let me do this right now. He's got a lot of fans out there. In fact, there are people who will tune in to the Facebook stream just to see him because he is not just a soundscape stylist. He is a sage. He is a soothsayer. He is a swashbuckler. He is an archaeologist. He went to the Great Pyramid and unearthed a scroll in the tomb of Ramses II, which led him to believe, and he was the only man or woman in America to predict the Buccaneers would blow out the Kansas City Chiefs, and he was right. He is the lovely, the talented Jeremy Fouts. How are you doing this morning?
Good morning, guys. I'm doing good. I would like to wish you both a happy National Umbrella Day.
Ooh.
The first recorded collapsible umbrella dates to the year of our Lord 21 in China. So there's your fun fact of the day.
Umbrellas have been around since the year 21. Not 2021, but 21.
Yeah, so I guess we're celebrating 2,000 years.
Yeah. And apparently we're going to need umbrellas in the next few days, and we're going to need like Eskimo gear and maybe a dog sled to get to work. My app yesterday said Monday in San Antonio, high 31, low 19, and a 50% chance of snow. So Shannon, because you're in Austin, I'm just going to scroll. I wonder what Austin's going to be. Austin, it was like low, 16 and a 60% chance of snow on Monday.
Great.
Woo!
If there's ice on the road, I'm letting you know now. I'm not going to be here.
Exactly. Just do your.
I can't. No.
Well, and we've got technology now, right? I mean, you could sign into StreamYard from your home.
That's very true.
You can do it on the phone.
I can't drive. And luckily, like, I grew up in a house where we didn't have a garage, but now I have a house with a garage.
Nice.
So during this time, I just drive from my garage to the station garage. I won't step foot outside. I just won't.
I am the biggest wimp when it comes to cold weather. If it gets below 60, I am complaining. So I'm gonna be hell to live with on Monday morning if that granted we're still like 4 or 5 days out from that forecast, but which
is sad because you can't see it, but this morning I came in with one of those ultra puffy jackets on for that kind of weather, and I'm already so I'm not looking forward to this.
No, I'm not, and hopefully on the other side of this, whenever it ends, Tuesday of next week, Wednesday, can we please just get on with spring? For crying out loud. All right, back to the Dallas Mavericks for a moment, Shannon. And again,
what are our poll question today?
What would the poll question be, Shannon?
We're asking folks if they support the decision that the Dallas Mavericks have made to no longer play the national anthem before the game. So far, a lot of people are saying no. 60%.
Yeah, this is going to be really interesting across America, and I think it's going to be quite polarizing. And I do want to say this, and I used to be a Mark Cuban detractor, mainly because, and he's crazy like a fox. He would come to San Antonio when the Mavericks would play the Spurs, and he would mock the Riverwalk. He'd say, that's a river, that's a creek, and that's a dirty creek. The water's green, that's mud. I mean, he kind of mock our city. Charles Barkley does that as well. Charles Barkley makes fun of our women. So it's kind of, I get it. It's tongue in cheek. It's for reaction. It's almost like wrestling. You're the bad guy. You're the villain coming into town. So I always kind of, because they were a bit of a rival back in the day, in the Dirk Nowitzki days when the Mavericks were a perennial playoff team, as were the Spurs, he was fun to hate. In a sports way. There's a difference between sports hate and actual hate. But then I started finding out, Shannon, and I'm sure you know this as a Mavericks fan, Mark Cuban does a lot for the troops. And he does a big deal a couple of times a year where they motivate Mavericks fans, season ticket holders. It's like, give up your ticket for this game so that we can give it for free to someone who serves in the military and their family. or a veteran, someone who has served in the military. The more I would hear, we saw the thing he did for the former player most recently. The more I have heard about Mark Cuban, I'm sure there's going to be a lot of people piling on Mark Cuban today over this story who are viscerally affected by it and angry at his decision. But if we're gonna be accurate, Mark Cuban does a lot of good in this country, and he does a lot of good for the troops, and he's a big supporter of those who serve in the military. So I think before we attack Mark Cuban today, I think we should also realize things are not black and white. There's a lot of good this guy does in the world.
Yeah, and Mark Cuban never does anything just on a whim. He always has his reasoning and something that he can put his foot down behind it. And this is still very, very fresh. He has yet to really comment on the situation or express why. And we may not even get that. It was a decision he made. He went ahead and made it. It's been that way all season. He's probably like, why are we talking about it now?
Yeah, so many of us demand an explanation.
Right, and that we don't always deserve one.
Yeah.
So, I think obviously he said this is going to be taking place for the future, but the future for what the NBA rules are this year are for just the season, of which you can do whatever you want prior to tip-off. So what happens next season, then we're really going to have a discussion if he still wants to put his foot down and say, no, I don't want to play the national anthem before the games. Are they going to play the Canadian anthem when Toronto comes?
Oh, that's a great question. And according to the reporting, and I know we're late for a break, we'll take a quick break here in a moment. According to the reporting, there are no plans to bring the anthem back in the future. I don't know who the sourcing is from because we don't have direct quotes necessarily from Mavericks owner Mark Cuban on this. We'll get Jeremy's reaction to this. We'll continue to react. I'm getting a lot of reaction on Facebook Live. We'll see what you're saying on Facebook Live about this. If you listening now want to sound off on anything we're talking about, including Mark Cuban and the Mavericks choosing to no longer play the national anthem before games, you're always welcome to join us on the phone lines, 800-707-9760. You can tweet at us, Shannon on Twitter, at Shannon B. Sweeney. Jeremy Fouts on Twitter at SATX Foxy Grandpa. I'm on Twitter at Chris Duel. We'll get into everything else as well. There's a lot going on in the world of sports. NFL, Dak Prescott, Russell Wilson. Troy Aikman sounding off about the Cowboys and Dak. We'll get into that as well. Lots to cover between now and 9 o'clock. She's Shannon Salty Sweeney. I'm Chris. You're listening to The Chris Duel Show. Roger Salazar, good morning. See what Tracy is writing. Tracy Bogert writes, the national anthem being played at events and the motto "In God We Trust" are not from the origins of this country. H.R. 619, a bill that required that inscription "In God We Trust" appear on all paper and coin currency, was signed into law by President Eisenhower on July 30th, 1956. And now states that "In God We Trust" is the national motto. Louisa says Mark Cuban ran it by the commissioner. Commissioner said it was okay. Yes, that's true. That's part of the reporting. Roger says Goff traded, Wentz about to be shipped out of Philly, Dak without a contract. It's a shame. Yeah. The quarterback mobility this offseason going to be like never before, probably. And I'm still skeptical as to whether or not Dak Prescott is happy with how he's been handled by the Dallas Cowboys. In other words, even if the Cowboys want to get a deal done, does Dak Prescott reach a tipping point where he decides I'm going to walk? Yeah, and was somebody spamming in here earlier? I saw something weird
So
that I didn't recognize. Yeah, Ori's money. Whatever that is. Yeah, sorry, Ori. Goodbye. Gabe Quintanilla, if you're still in here, welcome in. Gabe the Hammer Quintanilla, great man, great attorney in San Antonio. Eusebio Gallegos Jr. on Twitter says, supposedly the national anthem was put in place for recruiting purposes. Playing it or not doesn't matter to me. Just play the games already. Wes Perkins says he's going to call in a bit. Talk about the anthem from a different perspective. Beth Settle, you were up early this morning. What are you doing up at 6:34 in the morning? Tracy Bogert says, I'm betting Dak signs for 4 years, $160 million. Man, with each passing day, I'm beginning, and with all of the movement of these quarterbacks, I'm beginning to believe, and I didn't hear Russell Wilson on the Dan Patrick show yesterday. And Shannon, I don't know if you heard him, but what I'm hearing is Russell Wilson even left the door open that, it's not a done deal that he's back with the Seahawks this year. He wasn't really convincing that all is well. So I'm just wondering more and more if these quarterbacks saw what Tom Brady did. Go ahead.
Do you like him for Dallas?
Who, Russell Wilson?
Yeah.
Sure. If he wants to come on over. I'm just wondering if more and more these quarterbacks looking at what Tom Brady did, watching Deshaun Watson say enough is enough, Matthew Stafford saying, you know what, it's not working for me here, I want to leave. I think more and more maybe NFL quarterbacks are realizing, kind of like NBA players, that they can kind of dictate their terms and where they go. And you just, then you factor in what Dak Prescott is saying. And you just wonder if he's saying what Dak is telling him. We don't know the answers to any of these things at this time.
Because there's so many quarterbacks on the market right now, but there's only so many teams that are, quote unquote, a quarterback away.
Yeah,
so
true.
Some of those dominoes may fall into those places, and then the rest say, you know what, I think I am good here.
Yeah.
Because my situation here is better than it would be at what's left out there.
True, yeah. But even if you're...
It's like that Spider-Man gif where there's three of them and they're all pointing at each other.
Yeah.
No one's willing to make the first move.
But even if you're Dak, as much as, we are Cowboys fans, and just assuming you still realize, you look at Jerry Jones' inability since 1995 to put together a Super Bowl team. Are you confident that if you stay, you're going to reach the promised land? Now that offensive line is deteriorating, I'm assuming with that high draft pick this year, I'm assuming that might be an offensive lineman, because certainly the skill positions on offense are really good, but then you got the defensive issues.
And Cowboys love to botch a good draft.
Yeah. Although I was just starting to say recently, they were.
Leighton was good. CeeDee Lamb was good.
Leighton Vander Esch.
Taco Charlton will still take time to get over.
Here we come. Little Bowie in the morning for you. I can always live with some David Bowie. Your soundscape stylist, Mr. Jeremy Fouts, on Twitter at SATX, Foxy Grandpa. Shannon Salty Sweeney on Twitter at Shannon B. Sweeney. She's a Mavericks fan. We might even pull in, normally we bring him in here on Mondays and on Thursdays, but we might bring Mr. Tanner Carlson in here before the show's over to get his thoughts on what I think is going to be the big story in sports talk today. And as Shannon mentioned, and as evidenced by Fox News already all over it this morning on their network, Mark Cuban of the Dallas Mavericks. And again, this has been going on since the season began, but nobody really noticed it until now. The Dallas Mavericks have not played the national anthem in any of their home games this season, something like 13 home games. According to the reporting, there are no plans to play it in the future, either this season or in future seasons. as Luisa Alanis reminded us on Facebook Live, and I did read this in the reporting, he did consult NBA Commissioner Adam Silver on this, and Adam Silver said it was okay. No sanctioning Mark Cuban on this. But what's interesting, and what's part of the story is, this makes the Dallas Mavericks the first team in major professional sports in America to choose not to play the national anthem since we've been playing it before sporting events. And as I mentioned, that's been throughout my lifetime. And Shannon, you brought this up as well. What are his reasons for doing this? And probably the biggest reason was and is he probably has a number of players on the Dallas Mavericks roster who either A, would have protested or taken a knee during the anthem, or B, maybe even said to him, why don't we not do this? So he's probably being responsive to his players. And, on a certain level, we talked about Tom Brady yesterday being a leader, being responsive to his teammates, even though he's Tom Brady. If indeed that's what Mark Cuban is doing here, and he's got to realize he's going to take a lot of heat for this, and there's going to be a certain part of the population that's going to vilify him for this. If he's willing to do that for his players, then on a certain level, you've got to admire the courage to make a decision like this.
Yeah, Mark Cuban knows exactly what he's doing, and I would be shocked if he made this decision without having a conversation with the players, with the coaching staff, and I'm sure he did. And so that ultimately got us to the decision of, not playing the national anthem. I think people are probably okay with them not doing it when no one's in the stands, but now you're starting to get some fans in there, and there may be a couple that feel offended. Like, we need to take that moment to thank our troops and just have that moment of reflecting. But as you mentioned, Mark is no stranger to assisting troops, and he does a lot of good deeds. A lot of it, he doesn't publicize himself. Former player that Delonte West said he's been helping out in rehab. He hasn't been the one sharing those stories. That's all been, from the ground up. People who've seen it on social and have shared it themselves. So it's not Mark just like in a dictator fashion coming in and saying, no, we're not going to do it. I don't want to hear about it. We're just not going to play it. We're going to do this till the future. And no, I'm not going to take no for an answer. He knows what he's doing. And I'm sure at some point we'll get an explanation that I don't even think we are owed, because it is their decision, at least during this COVID season, whether or not they play it. But yes, he's certainly going to receive a ton of backlash from some sides and plenty of praise from other sides. So, but he's no, he's lived through that before. He'll be all right. He'll make it through.
A tweet from Eusebio Gallegos Jr., who says, supposedly the national anthem was put in place for recruiting purposes. Playing it or not doesn't matter to me. Just play the game already. And yeah, I think, Shannon, we're going to see, both sides of that argument. People who say, hey, tradition, how dare you? Do you hate America? What's wrong with you? And there's going to be other people going, you know what? These are sporting events. Let's move on and play the games. Let me ask Jeremy Fouts, our Soundscape stylist. Jeremy, you are a graduate of Oklahoma Christian University. I got to guess that's a fairly conservative school just based on the name. So, you probably have certainly interacted with, very conservative people over the years. It's kind of a conservative view that, I go back to Colin Kaepernick. That dude, for taking a knee during the national anthem just 3 years ago, has been pretty much blacklisted and blackballed by the NFL. There's some people who go, oh, he's not talented. Well, I think had that not happened, Kaepernick would have gotten a few more opportunities, at least to be a backup player in the NFL. So, Jeremy Fouts, Mark Cuban, owner of the Dallas Mavericks, choosing no longer to play the national anthem before games. Your take on this?
Shannon brought up a good point earlier of that it's kind of just something we always did. and someone said, just play the game already. And I think I would agree with that. I'm not super positive on the relation between, a sports game and the national anthem. Now, I would sing the national anthem before the Chris Duel show every morning if you wanted to do that.
We might. We might look into that.
So I personally like singing the national anthem at football games or any other sporting event. I don't think it's necessary to do that. But as you said, I can already imagine some people giving him some heat for that. I think people put a lot of stock just in praising this great country that we have, and I think that's a fair thing to do. And they want to praise it at any given opportunity, which I understand. But I don't think that the national anthem is necessary.
All right. And I must tell you, Shannon and Jeremy, I do like it. I mean,
Oh yeah.
It is a tradition.
Flyovers.
Yeah, flyovers, the anthem. And I said this during the Colin Kaepernick controversy. I do understand as well. I grew up in a military family. I spent 2 years at the Air Force Academy. My father and my brother served and are buried at Fort Sam Houston National Cemetery. So, I mean, I hear the national anthem at any venue, including a sporting event. And I think of my brother, I think of my dad, I think of people who served, and I sometimes get emotional. And so when the Kaepernick thing was happening, I said, and I believe, I understand Colin Kaepernick's wanting to protest, and he has the right to, in my opinion, peacefully to say, hey, there's things going on in this country while you're playing this national anthem. I want you to be aware of people like me who are calling attention to injustices in this country. I totally get that, but I also get that there are people who hear that anthem and they have an emotional attachment, and they do associate the national anthem with the military, with our troops, with something patriotic and kind of beyond ourselves. So, I mean, that's why, Shannon, this is such a hot button topic. I mean, that's why Fox News is leading with this story this morning, in addition to the impeachment story that's going on, because it is something that means so much to people. And I, from my perspective, both extreme positions are correct. Like, yes, tradition, don't mess with tradition, keep the anthem. And yet, as Jeremy says, and as a lot of people say in the tweet, is like, hey, it's a sporting event. You're playing a sport. You're playing a game. Why is it absolutely necessary? And in America, when you have free speech and free choice, and if you own a team like Mark Cuban does, don't you have the option to choose whether or not you want to air the national anthem before a game? So, yeah, I actually see both sides of the story.
Well, and for someone like me, who I obviously go to sporting events and I watch plenty of sporting events, but you take that out of my life, I don't run into instances where I hear that song or come across an event where that song is played. So the fear might be, for those that don't want to get rid of it, is if all the leagues and all the teams decide, all right, we're not going to play the national anthem anymore, when are people going to take that moment to reflect on those that have served our country? When are people going to take that pause to think about their loved ones and the lives that have been lost, sometimes unnecessarily? When are we going to do that? When are we going to think about our country, other than every other year, or every 4 years, when we have a president who gets inaugurated, or because that's the last time I heard it. So I haven't been to a sporting event in a long time. Yeah, thanks to COVID. But I think that may be in the back of some people's minds too, of is this one step into just getting rid of it kind of altogether? Because do they even say it in schools? I know in Texas you say the Pledge of Allegiance and you pledge the Texas flag, but I don't think they do the national anthem.
No, probably not. But
I don't know where else you hear it.
Yeah, good point. But again, and another thing that strikes me as we're having this conversation, Shannon, I remember, right after 9/11, when this country was attacked, and it was sports, and it was the playing of the national anthem at these sporting events right after 9/11 that were so moving and so emotional. And for a brief moment, when this country was A, attacked, and B, at war, for a brief moment, we kind of laid down our, oh, I'm a Republican and you're a Democrat or you're an independent or you're a libertarian, and we were all Americans for a while. And I think we would be naive to assume that this country is not going to be attacked again, or to assume that this country is not going to go through a major war again. Human nature and human history suggest or confirm that will happen again, and at that point, who's going to be playing the national anthem before sporting events and who will not be. It's going to be an interesting choice every step of the way.
Yeah, I was in Boston, not for the actual marathon bombing, but I flew in the day that the chase was on and the lockdown happened. And so that made for a really great trip to be on lockdown for half of that. But I remember going out the next day when things were back open and there was a hockey game in Boston that night and seeing it on TV and just everyone in the room listening to that national anthem. It was a moment, and to be there in that moment is something I will never forget. And I don't, like you said, I don't know if you get those moments if you take away the national anthem from sporting events.
And what's going to be fascinating, and we're going to see it maybe beginning today, Shannon, as you mentioned, you woke up to this story. I think a lot of people this morning are waking up to this story.
Right. And we're thinking out loud here.
True. Right, yeah. And that's what we do. And we invite you to join us at 800-707-9760. But I also know for a fact, and it's not the same dynamic, but some people might consider it as such. When Greg Popovich, the coach of the San Antonio Spurs, started speaking out about his differences with the president, there were a number of season ticket holders who said, you know what, screw that. I'm not going to games anymore. And there were some major advertisers who said, you know what, I'm done. I'm not going to be, advertised. So, I mean, even the Spurs, when Pop spoke out and continues to, on a certain level, the Spurs paid a price. You've got to wonder now, are there going to be Dallas Mavericks fans, season ticket holders, and advertisers who are going to pull out based on this? It'll be interesting to see.
And that's interesting that you mentioned Pop, because he is, as we recall, the Olympic head coach for America. And that is a sporting event where we know all the national anthems are played.
Yeah, and again, just like Cuban and what he's done for the troops, Pop, graduate of the United States Air Force Academy, served in the Air Force, was a commissioned officer and a gentleman. I mean, people will hear something and want to vilify that guy or that woman, and it's like, you know what? Let's look at the big picture. Let's look at the whole story here. There's probably a lot more nuance, and there's a lot more depth to this man or this woman who just made this choice. And this morning, we're looking at Mark Cuban for making this choice. She is Shannon Salty Sweeney. Jeremy Fouts is your soundscape stylist. We'll open up the phone lines on this and a whole lot more coming up. You're listening to The Chris Duel Show. Little police there walking on the moon. I like it.
Yeah, I haven't heard much of the police. I mean, honestly, most of the classic rock I hear is from working on this show, which I appreciate. I like some of this stuff.
Yeah. So I saw Wes Perkins calling. Is he going to call back?
Yeah, I told him to call back just because we were so close to a break.
Yeah, I was like 1 minute out when I saw his call.
Yeah. I hope I didn't imply that you didn't care about the anthem or something. I hope.
Oh no, not at all.
Okay,
no. I didn't.
When you started saying that, I was like,
yeah, no,
crap.
No, I didn't get that at all. No, I just, and again, I flash back to the Colin Kaepernick thing, and I know there are people who, and they're being, you look at Fox News and they're being reinforced to believe that, this anthem and the actual singing of it is directly tied, to our troops. So right. There's a certain segment, and I know them and I understand them, who will feel offended by not playing it, and were offended by Colin Kaepernick. Laura Bernard, good points. John McGee, good point. And Fox News is doing it again right after the break. Coming up on Fox and Friends, National Anthem outrage. And they're showing images of Mark Cuban.
Are they showing any of his TikToks?
Not yet.
He's a horrible dancer, but he tries.
Yeah, they'll probably show them. Not only is he un-American, he's a horrible dancer.
I didn't realize Chris Beard got ejected last night.
I didn't know that either. And again, because I was doing the Spurs game, I didn't see much of the Texas game, obviously, nor Tech and West Virginia.
Double Tech for yelling at the refs.
Nice.
Tech lost, by the way.
Tech lost at home. Wow. And again, I didn't. That's Spurs game. I didn't get home till like 10:30. So, and that kind of had me distracted from other things like the Tech game and the Horns game last night. I'll be right back. Mask on. Well, West Virginia won by double digits over Tech, 82-71. My goodness. No wonder Chris Beard got tossed. He could not have been happy. Clint Proctor says, Chris Beard is the man. Very popish style. Yeah, Clint, that's why he's going to be such a great coach for the Longhorns next year. Fonzie J. Rodriguez. Oh, Fonzie with the Stevie Wonder joke. Come on, man. Bernard with the Mark Cuban TikTok. And I think that his kids coerce him into those dances. Yeah, he's not exactly Fred Astaire, but he's going for it. Okay, we got the contest at 7:20. I need to text Bill Schoening at 7:30. We typically have Bill on the show at 8:06, but even though I was on the radio with him last night, I did not confirm to him confirm with him that he's on the show this morning. So we'll find out. We called him once and he was asleep because he not only he does the Spurs games at the AT&T Center, then he drives to Austin where he lives. So God knows when he gets home. Leaving San Antonio about 10:30-ish, then driving to Austin. So midnight at best.
This is the Chris Duel Show. You know the name is now, Chris Duel.
You made it to the midpoint of the week. It's all downhill from here. Wednesday, February 10th, as we move further into the dark ages of sports, when NFL football ends and we move into the dark, frigid wilderness, locusts, cats, and dogs living together, snow in Austin on Monday, snow in San Antonio, at least it's predicted. And in a moment, Shannon, I see Wes Perkins is calling in, wants to talk about the anthem. So we'll take his call. But I promise we will talk about other sports this morning. But what you're witnessing on this show, I mean, it's happening across America. This Mark Cuban story that we're talking about, the owner of the Dallas Mavericks choosing not to play the national anthem before Mavericks games this year. And if you're just waking up to this, they haven't played it all year. It's just finally somebody noticed. You know, there were not fans at Mavericks games, just like at Spurs games and many other NBA venues. And so they just weren't playing the anthem, and they're still not playing it. And it's a decision Mark Cuban and the Mavericks have made, but now everybody else is finding out about it. So there's a lot of reaction to it. But Shannon, before we go to Wes's call, we hereby promise we will talk Longhorns. We'll talk Texas Tech and Chris Beard getting ejected last night in Lubbock. We'll talk Cowboys. Troy Aikman had something to say about the Cowboys. So do we promise to get into all that, including the salty shakedown this hour, Shannon? So we got a lot going on, right?
Yes, I can assure you there's no national anthem talk in the Shelty Shakedown today.
Yes. So it's hard to avoid this. I mean, there's so much going on in this story. It's like sports, it's tradition, it's America, it's polarizing, it's all of the above. So Wes Perkins, a friend of the show, we've had him in studio, we've had him on Spurs React, always a very thoughtful, compelling caller and with great takes on sports. Let's bring him on board. By the way, you can join us as well on the phone lines at any time. 800-707-9760 is the phone number. Wes, you are on board. How you doing this morning?
I'm doing well. Good morning, Chris, Shannon, Jeremy. Getting ready for the snow apocalypse. 21, right? So listen, I want to bring a different view about the national anthem here. And, you know, I think part of the problem is here, we don't have all of the information. And just like anything, people jump. They want to be the first to break stories and that kind of stuff. And so, you know, in this case, Fox News is going overboard. And, you know, I agree with what y'all are saying about this. I agree that, you know, it's Mark Cuban's right if they choose not to do that. I know he's a great humanitarian. I remember years ago, he went to a Dairy Queen for some reason, just for to as kind of a, I don't remember if it was a Make-A-Wish or what it was for somebody, and he worked a day at a Dairy Queen, at a local Dairy Queen. How many billionaires would ever do that? You know, I mean, so the guy is really a great man. But I'm going to use this as a different tone here. The national anthem hopefully will return when people return to the stands. And I say this as a musician because students that I've had a chance to have perform the national anthem have gotten experiences beyond belief from going to Spurs games and performing on that floor amongst the great players of both teams. And in fact, even one year, Bruce Bowen put his arms around one of our trumpet soloists that was about to play the national anthem soloist, nervous as all get out. Talked to him and gave him a lot of wonderful, just, you know, commentary and just jokes and then the roar of the crowd at the end of the anthem. And I think that sometimes we forget that the anthem isn't about being a perfect society. The anthem is about understanding and, you know, being able to overcome our adversities of what we are. It has nothing to do with the military. It has nothing to do with a political statement. It's encompassing who we are as Americans. And it also has a lot to do with some of the greatest performances we've ever seen. Think about Whitney Houston. think about the other day, just what we saw with what you guys brought up with her and with the country star. You know, how you can bring two genres of music together, and you might even say two different types of ethnic, types of thoughts together as well. I just think of this as a musician and say it would be a real shame for young people to not get that opportunity when it means so much.
Shannon, I want to get your thoughts on what Wes just said. And I know that whenever I've known somebody who went out and sang the national anthem at a sporting event, when you know that person, it is so cool. And what Wes says, Shannon, is so true. It's such an amazing moment for the performer.
Yeah, it does. With the number of sports games, there's, even in high school level, I would have friends that would sing the national anthem. Are you going to be at the game? Well, yeah, I'm playing in the game. It's my basketball game. So yeah, I'm going to be there to watch you sing it. And that's a discussion too. High school sports, are they, if professional sports aren't doing it, then you're going to start to have the argument of, well, should, students and faculty and at what level are they needing to or not needing to perform and stand for the national anthem if it's played at all?
Well, and Wes is a band director, a high school band director. Wes, do you think there might be a domino effect here? I mean, might other professional franchises do what Mark Cuban has decided, and might it spread to amateur sports and high schools? What do you think?
I don't know. I don't. Off the cusp, I don't think so, but I think there might be some, depending upon the region. I think it may be more region located, some, again, I hate to put politicizing to anything, but, when you look at the way thought processes are from state to state, it's very different. So, I don't know. I don't think that that's necessarily going to be the cause and the effect right now, but, I just look at it from the standpoint of, what that anthem means to so many, both good and bad. And Chris, this as being a guy who's been around sports for a long, long time. Back in the 90s, it was such a big deal when Mahmoud Abdul-Rauf of the Denver Nuggets refused to put his hand over his heart for the national anthem, if you remember. That kind of started the trend of, the players that maybe they would nod their heads or bow their heads, or they wouldn't, put their hand on their heart, or whatever the case would be. And everybody's got a freedom of expression, and just like we have a freedom of speech. And I just think that in this case, I don't know that it does any harm to play something that gives, people a chance to showcase their talent.
Well, and Wes, speaking of freedom of freedom of expression, you'll remember this. One of the coolest things I've ever seen was David Robinson when he played for the Spurs. A Naval Academy graduate would not just stand for the national anthem; he would stand at full attention, at full United States Navy attention. Which, and again, was him. You would see him do that and go, "Oh yeah, he was in the military on a high level." So I would hate to see it go for a lot of reasons, including every reason you just outlined, even from a performance standpoint. And I really think ideally, and I know our country is continually evolving and growing, and we're flawed just like we are as individuals. But I still wish, we could still keep this tradition and come together and perform it and give people the option. If you want to take a knee, or if you don't want to come out for it, that's your option as well.
Well, and I'll say this, the last thing too, y'all, is that I had a real good friend in high school who was a foreign student. She was from Switzerland, and I took her to a Spurs game, and I'll never forget her commentary after the game. I thought she was going to comment about the Coyote and the game and what was going on, and she said that she'll never forget the moment the national anthem was sung and what she felt and how much she saw what American means, and being united, and wishing that she had that in her own country. I just, sometimes I think we look at things as either very, very one way or very the other, and we sometimes forget to see the middle ground.
Wes, as always, brother, outstanding call, very compelling perspectives. We really appreciate your calling in, man. Have a great day.
Thanks, you guys too.
All right. Shannon, we're going to force ourselves to talk about some other sports for a while. I have a feeling we'll get back to Mark Cuban because it is a big story this morning, and we're getting a lot of reaction on Facebook Live. We're getting reaction on Twitter. And if somebody else wants to jump in here on the phone lines, you can, 800-707-9760. But in addition to the Longhorns going to Kansas State last night and barely getting out of there with a victory, you told this to me, and I didn't realize it because I was working the Spurs broadcast last night. Number 7, Texas Tech, at Lubbock last night, hosting number 14, West Virginia. West Virginia wins by double digits, 82-71. And our boy Chris Beard, a guy you think might be the next head coach of the Longhorn men's basketball team, he got tossed from that game. He wasn't having it. He wasn't happy last night.
No, but he did get tossed with 23 seconds left in the game. So it's not like they were without at that point. It was 77-71 West Virginia. So I think that game was pretty close to over at that point. West Virginia ultimately gets the lead. But yeah, he was getting spicy last night, which was, when Tech was in town to play Texas, Chris Beard was high-fiving Texas players for their good plays on the field and being pretty jovial. So to see him get all hot and red and getting ejected so close to the end of the game, that's new to me. I don't know about what Tech fans think, but certainly a tough loss for them on their home floor against West Virginia last night. Well,
and again, you look at the Big 12, Shannon, and I'm looking at Tech's record now. Number 7 in the country coming in last night. They're 6-5 in the Big 12. There's so much angst among Longhorn fans, because the Longhorns are 6-4 in the Big 12 now, and Tech is now 6-5 in the Big 12. And Tech is a team that has knocked off some very good competition, including the Texas Longhorns this year. Overall, Tech is now 14-6. Texas is 12-5 overall. So, I mean, it's kind of, the Big 12, other than Baylor, who keeps on winning, these teams in the Big 12 keep, cannibalizing each other, knocking each other off. So I think that's part of what's happening here.
Yeah, we see this a lot in the Big 12, especially during the football season when you have, the Texas and the OUs go head to head, and they're kind of your savior to be that chance to make it into the college football playoff. And then, come to find out, if one of them beats the other, in the Big 12 championship game or things of that nature start to happen. Ultimately, the Big 12 beats itself. And we're in basketball, luckily the tournament is so large that most of them will still have their time to shine. But the difference for me right now between Texas and Texas Tech, I mean, just watching this video of Chris Beard getting thrown out, there is so much passion and so much will to win that you're just not seeing on the Texas floor from the players or the coaches. That doesn't mean I need Shaka to go and get himself thrown out, but I mean, Chris Beard is marching all over this floor and backing up his team last night.
And you got to wonder, if we are wondering if Chris Beard might somewhere down the road, maybe very shortly, become the head coach of the Longhorns. If we're having that thought, you can't assume that he's not having that thought. I mean, even if, and as an alum, obviously that's got to be in the back of his mind. He pays close attention, obviously, to the Big 12. As an alum, he must pay close attention, and as a rival, to the Texas Longhorns. So, as he tries to this season and for yet another season make Texas Tech the best he can make them in basketball, you just got to wonder if he's also kind of watching the scoreboard as well to see how Texas is doing.
Yeah, and Wes on here saying he's not going to UT. I think he made the point the other day that Tech has, extended his contract. They're getting him everything he needs. He's getting new facilities. Well, Texas is down here building a brand new stadium. Texas never short on cash flow. Would clearly be willing, after what they did with Tom Herman, be willing to shell it all out for a guy that is not only an alum, but a guy that has proven to build a roster and build a team and get them a chance to, they went to the national championship, didn't win. Awful 3-point shot there at the end of the game, but a team that has stayed relevant even since then, even though they haven't played up to that standard that they did that particular season. But he's clearly shown more so than I think Shaka Smart, that he knows how to create a culture and create a team with an identity and then keep that identity and continue to progress throughout the season. The idea is to get better with each game, whereas Texas starts off hot and you think this is our year, and we are where we are right now, where it all seems to be crumbling towards the end. Yes, there's time to fix it and make it all come back together, but there's the same amount of time you can do a lot of damage as well.
Yeah, and if Chris Beard can do what he's doing in Lubbock with the Texas Tech brand, and he's doing amazing things, imagine what he could do in Austin with the Texas Longhorns brand. I mean, yeah.
What Wes says being a grad doesn't matter. I'm sorry, but being a grad is half of the reason Tom Herman got hired.
Yeah. And again, for any of us who've gone to, and Wes went to Tech, you went to Texas, I went to USC. I mean, if I had a cool job anywhere else and I was in sports or even out of sports as a professor or whatever, and I had the opportunity to go and the money was good, and I had the opportunity to go back to my alma mater, in my case, USC, in your case, Texas, in Chris Beard's case, Texas, and go work there, that's hard to turn down. We all have a lot of fond memories, and a lot of us very, very proud of our alma mater. So I mean, if Texas comes knocking and opening up the pocketbook to Chris Beard, I think he'd be hard pressed to turn that down. All right, I am late for the cash contest, but better late than never. We tend to do this at 20 after the hour. I know it's 7:22 right now, but let's do it anyway. Here it is, the grand in your hand cash contest.
Let us give you money. Your chance to win $1,000 is right now. Text the nationwide keyword WIN to 200-200. You'll get a confirmation text and info. Standard data and message rates apply in this nationwide contest. Once again, that's WIN to 200-200. Good luck.
Good luck. We hope you win. All right, bouncing now from college basketball to NFL football and America's team, the Dallas Cowboys. Troy Aikman quoted yesterday by David Moore in the Dallas Morning News as saying, quote, from Troy Aikman, quote, "I'd be really surprised," this is about Dak, "I'd be really surprised if he's playing under the franchise tag again this year. My guess is if he is, that will be the last we see of Dak Prescott." I mean, Shannon, Troy Aikman is a very astute observer of the Dallas Cowboys, and as a former Dallas Cowboys quarterback, I think he knows what he's talking about. We've speculated if the Cowboys franchise tag Dak again, usually in the NFL, that player is not long for your franchise if you franchise tag him a second time. How concerned are you getting that Dak Prescott may not be long for the Dallas Cowboys?
I'm still under the guise that he will sign a long-term deal with the Dallas Cowboys. However, the longer we wait, the more worried I become. I'm glad a guy like Troy Aikman has said what he said, and because he's even said this is not a rebuilding year for the team. They need a couple pieces, but that ultimate piece is signing Dak Prescott and keeping him around for more than just 1 year, because this team could really go on a run. So to have a guy like that, who obviously a Dallas Cowboys legend, hopefully is just a small whisper into the ear of Jerry Jones to say, get something on the table and signed.
Yeah, and you hope that it's obviously, and I know you're being facetious with small whisper, you hope that, when Troy Aikman speaks, it's more than a small whisper to Jerry Jones and to Stephen Jones. Hopefully it's a cautionary tale. It's like, dudes, you're about to blow this. And in fact, I mean, it was Troy Aikman who taught us in the aftermath of Troy Aikman, as we went through the Quincy Carters of the world and the Clint Sterners of the world. God love him. It was a long time to go from Troy Aikman to Tony Romo and then to Dak Prescott. I mean, it's hard. And this is the same argument you can make to the Houston Texans, who are now going through what they're going through with Deshaun Watson. I mean, you get a quarterback of that caliber in your house in your franchise and then you blow it. I mean, you blow it not only at your own peril, but you may be screwing up your franchise for several seasons to come. And that's kind of, the Cowboys are playing with fire here, and they've been doing so with Dak now for a couple of seasons. And here we go again. The next upcoming deadline is March 9th to sign him. And if you don't sign him there, you're going to have to franchise tag him. Now, as Tanner Carlson told us earlier in the week, you can still negotiate with him even though you tag him. But the clock certainly seems to be ticking.
The clock is ticking, and if you're the Cowboys and you're seeing the quarterback market as it is, I can't imagine there's a name that's out there right now that they're saying yes, him over Dak Prescott. We would rather find a way to get him and risk upsetting Dak if we don't, than just go ahead and sign Dak. You don't want to be, like you said, in the position that the Texans are in now, where you end up having a guy, but he doesn't want to be there anymore. Sign the man. Sign Dak.
Yeah, and again, March 9th, the big deadline on the horizon, and here we are. That's now officially less than a month away, today being Wednesday, February 10th. So the clock is a-ticking on Dak Prescott. Coming up, the salty shakedown of the morning. What is on Shannon Salty Sweeney's radar that we should be talking about? And she guarantees us her salty shakedown is Mark Cuban free.
It is.
We're talking a lot of Mark Cuban and Mavericks this morning. Don't go anywhere. We are with you till 9. Bill Schoening, the voice of the San Antonio Spurs, coming up in the 8 o'clock hour as well. You can join us, 800-707-9760. We are streaming live video on Ticket 760 and AM 1300 The Zone's Facebook pages, with links to that video feed via YouTube, and we're putting those out at Twitter as well. Jeremy Fouts is your soundscape stylist. She is Shannon Salty Sweeney. I'm Chris. Thanks for hanging out with us. You're listening to the Chris Duel Show. Woo!
Got another spammer in here. It's very distracting.
Yeah, who's our latest spamming troll? Can't even pronounce that. Bitapong Rawan Ai. Thank you.
Wes, coaches come to UT because they have big egos and they think, what if I am the guy to turn it around and get the program where they need to be? Then I'm a hero. And who doesn't want to be the hero? And a well-paid hero at that. It's not community service. And do you really want to live in Lubbock when you could live in Central Texas?
Yeah, there's that too.
I mean, you live full-time in Austin. You can go to San Marcos, San Antonio all the time. I don't know where you go if you live in Lubbock.
There's Wahoo's Fish Tacos. Is there still a Wahoo's in Austin?
The only one I knew of was like on West 6th-ish somewhere. I'm not a fish taco person, so I don't do fish. So I never.
I first had Wahoo's in Southern California. They were founded in Southern California near Laguna Beach. So when I saw them show up in Austin, I was so excited. They're really good.
Lubbock has better tacos than Austin. Did they use the tortillas from the field?
All right, I'm going to text Bill, but I did not reconfirm with him last night, which I should have. So I'm going to give him the option. If he's wiped out after last night and after driving back to Austin, I get it.
I can't believe he doesn't have an apartment in San Antonio, that the Spurs don't put up or.
Well, and I'm surprised. I mean, I know he loves Austin, but after 20 years, I'm a little surprised. That Spurs season is so long. I'm surprised he hasn't moved to San Antonio.
I know.
But you got to love him for loving Austin. John Williams calling a tortilla a Mexican frisbee. Xavier Moreno, Austin is too expensive to live in and way too much traffic. Yeah, Carl, it's so weird. I didn't see your video the night of the Super Bowl. It just showed up on my feed last night. Facebook is so weird sometimes. Had I seen it the night of the Super Bowl, I'd have definitely liked it that night. Musa says Lubbock has better tacos than Austin. Wes Perkins says Bob Knight wasn't an Indiana grad. Being a grad doesn't matter. Wes, that's a good point. However, like I said earlier, though, if it were you and Tech came calling, or Shannon and Texas came calling, or me and USC came calling, while it doesn't matter if you're an alum, I think it has an influence. And obviously, and I think most of us, if we had a good experience in college, the thought of going back there, you know, as a coach, as an assistant coach, as a professor, as a whatever, is, I mean, if you have a warm and fuzzy feeling for where that is, you know, in your case, Texas Tech, Shannon's Texas, mine USC, then I think you would certainly consider it maybe more than any other university offering you the gig. Xavier Moreno, Cowboys should save their dollars, let Dak walk. With an injury like he had, he might never be the same. Go after a veteran quarterback. Or, and I've often thought this, and I don't totally disagree with you on Dak. The template, Seattle won a Super Bowl with Russell Wilson on a rookie contract. Patrick Mahomes was on a rookie contract still when they won their Super Bowl with him. Colin Cowherd talks about this a lot. Oh, and by the way, Shannon, did you see the Colin Cowherd video?
I did, yeah.
Yeah, he's had like a big medical issue.
Yeah, blood, right?
Yeah, a blood clot in his lung that seemed quite serious and maybe still does. But, you know, as Colin Cowherd has pointed out a lot the last several months, it may be the new template for going to the Super Bowl. Find yourself a really, really good young quarterback. And Dak was that guy for a while. Cowboys just didn't, when they were 13-3, they didn't get to the promised land.
Right.
But that's why I wanted to tank for Trevor. I wanted the Jets to have that. I guess we should probably do radio since that's the music. Wow. Jeremy Fouts.
What is
Jeremy,
this?
care to explain yourself on this musical choice?
This would be Electric Funeral by Black Sabbath.
I thought that was Ozzy's voice. Electric Funeral by Black Sabbath. For what team are you playing the Electric Funeral? Are you mocking my Spurs for getting blown out last night by the Golden State Warriors?
Yeah, we're holding a eulogy for him today.
Man, every time I start to really feel good about the Spurs and get a little cocky, Spurs had won 3 in a row. For the first time in a couple of years, the Spurs were 4 games over 500. They were 14-10 going into last night's game against the Golden State Warriors. It was tied at halftime, 50-50, but the Warriors just blew it wide open in the third quarter. They went, I think, at one point like on a 23-2 run in the third quarter to open up a huge lead, and that was it. The Spurs would not get back into the game. Golden State Warriors beat the Spurs last night, 114-91. So the Spurs now, Shannon, the good news is, in a weird, we thought 2020 was weird. 2021 is a continuation of the weirdness on so many levels that was 2020. Spurs are 7-8 at home, sub 500 once again, but they're 7-3 on the road, and now they open up a 7-game rodeo road trip. If they can just do what they've been doing on the road, and that's play percentage 700 basketball, they'll be okay. 7-game rodeo road trip, go out there, win 6 out of 7, go win 5 out of 7, they'll be fine.
Yeah, and that's quite a stretch to be on the road. So I think anytime getting that many is a huge accomplishment.
Yes.
On a road trip like that. And also, like, are people still upset that there's the rodeo road trip when there is no rodeo?
It is very weird this year. And I don't understand what the NBA was thinking schedule wise, or, maybe they thought, what if the rodeo came back? Maybe I don't know. It's just weird. It's weird.
But like you said, they are playing so well on the road that maybe now people have just, never mind.
Yeah.
We're cool with it.
Yeah, and the team themselves, maybe they've gotten to the point where, it's like, thank goodness, get out of the AT&T Center where we're 7-8. Let's go on the road where we win.
Right. And see different 4 walls than we're used to seeing at home, since we're still pretty much quarantined.
Well, and Bill Schoening, and I think we're going to have Bill Schoening at the top of the 8 o'clock hour. He had a really interesting theory on the fact that so many teams in the NBA this year with no fans in the stands are performing better on the road, because with COVID, you're kind of locked in to your hotel room. So you're kind of all you can really do other than Xbox is like laser focus on the game. Whereas in previous years, you go on the road and, hey, let's go to a great restaurant. I know a lot of players like to go clubbing on different NBA teams, not necessarily the Spurs. They've never been a big clubbing team, but so I believe it's twofold. One, it's the fans, and we're finding out more than ever that fans must have an influence, certainly on NBA games when they're there. And two, I think the road teams have nothing else to do but go out and play the game, and maybe they're a little extra focused, and maybe they're mad. It's like, thank God I'm out of my hotel room. Let's go take our frustrations out on this home team.
Yeah, a true work trip.
Yeah.
No distractions.
So come on, Spurs. 7-game rodeo road trip. You're great on the road this year. I think they have the third best road record in the Western Conference, which is outstanding. I think the Lakers have a really great road record and then another team. But so Spurs are doing very, very well. Well, Shannon, it is that time for a little something you like to call the salty shakedown.
That's right, sir. We've got 3 headlines for you today, starting with our Super Bowl champions, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. They are going to have a boat parade. Woo! That begins at 12 noon standard or central time, so 1 p.m. local time there. It will be a little different than when the hockey team had their celebration late in September. There won't be fans can, if they have boats themselves, they can be in the water. They just can't be part of the parade like I guess they could previously. They are asking everyone to, of course, mask up. The mayor still very upset and does want to seek some legal action against those that went out and partied maskless and violated the CDC regulations following that Super Bowl victory. And asking, of course, people that do line the waterways to wear masks. I don't know, I've never been to Tampa, so I don't know what the waterways look like. I don't know what the situation is as far as social distancing. I do think it's interesting that they are having a boat parade. There will also not be anything after the boat parade. It's just going to be a parade. There's not going to be, we're all going to meet at this point, and then we're going to have some speeches. It's just going to be, look, we're on a boat. We also learned at Gronk's time at Disney that he has yet to touch the Vince Lombardi trophy. He's only seen it from 30 yards away. Of course, we know all too well that he does not have a great past when touching the trophy. I believe the last one he won is when he dented it by using it as a shield against a ball that was coming at him. I don't know if it's just him not touching it because he doesn't want to ruin it, or if someone has actively kept it away from Gronk. So we'll have to be on the lookout today to see if he gets to hold it on the boat. Chris Duel, a boat parade? Would you be down?
Well, and as you know, Shannon, when the Spurs win, we have river parades here on the San Antonio Riverwalk, which is cool. I was in Tampa for that Super Bowl in 2001 between the Ravens and the Giants, so I did see boats out there on the other side of the hotel. It is they've got a cool waterway. And yeah, I mean, if you've got a waterway in Tampa or in San Antonio, if you've got a river, have a river parade or a boat parade. I think it's cool. I think they are making a mistake. Now, I know you can't have a big event where everybody gives speeches and you have a crowd, but they should have a virtual thing where, I want to hear a Brady speech. I want to hear from Gronk.
Because he's so
I want to
awkward.
hear from Bruce Arians. So
yeah, Brady speeches are pretty great because he gets up there and then he says that one thing that he knows he's going to say, and then he doesn't really know what to do. He usually just drops the mic because he can, because he's Tom Brady.
So have speeches, but it's too late. They're not going to have them.
Yeah, maybe next time, since some people are so confident that they'll go back and win another one. Moving over to college basketball, North Carolina played Duke this past weekend. Usually that's a pretty big game on everyone's radar, but because both are not in the top 25 currently, not so much. Now it is kind of like your Texas A&M, where when they play, it doesn't matter what their rankings are. They just both want to beat each other so badly. UNC got the upper hand this past weekend and got the victory. They went out and partied afterwards, and those parties ended up on Snapchat. Players were there. They were not wearing face masks. That led to Monday night's game against Miami being postponed. Now, we are getting later in the season. It's getting harder and harder to reschedule these postponed games because we are running out of time. So to have a game postponed because your players went out to a party, and then that party, of course, because we are in the age of social media, it spread like wildfire. Players released a statement on the official UNC pages. The coach went out and released a statement saying that they were so sorry that they did that. The postponement wasn't just Miami saying, hey, y'all did this. No. Both schools did agree to it. But we're running out of time to reschedule games that have already been postponed because of COVID running rampant through one school or another. Now you're doing it to yourself. I don't know if the NCAA will come down with sanctions for this, but it's just a really crazy and really stupid story for these kids that have been coached all season. Don't do this, and yet they go do it. It gets put on social media. Who cares if you won the big game? Again, you're unranked, so calm down. Crystal, this is why we don't use Snapchat.
Well, and I heard somebody say this on national sports talk radio, and I totally agree. We so often use the term kids when it's college athletes.
Mm-hmm.
And, these are 18 to 22-year-old adults.
Yes.
And if you get to the level you're playing for North Carolina or Duke, or if you're playing for a community college and you're 18 or 17 or certainly 22, you're responsible. You're old enough to go into the military. You're old enough to have a lot of responsibility, and you should exercise your responsibility. And how long have we been telling people and adults, wear a mask, socially distance, don't be a knucklehead? And these kids, quote unquote kids, are blowing it and being knuckleheads, and we should throw the book at them as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, and I think the worrisome part is that, okay, this one ended up on Snapchat. Where did they celebrate other victories, or how did they celebrate other victories this past season? So we'll keep an eye on that, of when that game against Miami gets rescheduled, if at all, because like we said, a lot of games need to be rescheduled for teams all around the country. Now, another knucklehead, Mr. Malik Beasley, who plays for the Timberwolves. Timberwolves currently in dead last. However, Beasley, sort of a shining spot on that team, as he leads the team with average of 20 points a game. However, yesterday he was sentenced to 120 days in jail. Back in September, he was under the influence of something. He was irate. There was a family, for whatever reason, they were bothering him. He felt like they were bothering him. He pointed a gun at them and told them to scram. He has now been sentenced by the judge to 120 days in jail. Now, the judge, knowing, I guess, that the Timberwolves have next to no shot at making the playoffs, is allowing him to play the rest of the season because he does not have to report to jail until May 26. Haven't heard any official word yet from the Timberwolves if they're going to. I guess you allow him to play because he's your best player, but also if you're going nowhere, I don't know if you want that story happening every time they're on the road and you have a different announcer who just brings it all back up again. Mr. Duel, Mr. Malik Beasley, do you foresee him finishing out this season?
Oh, gosh. And I heard the story. It was a rifle. He pulled out a rifle.
A rifle of all the... It's not like he had his two little finger guns. Hey, man, cut that out.
Like let me whip out my rifle.
Let me whip this out.
You're bothering, and like a family here. And granted, Malik Beasley, by definition, is a big dude. If you're in the NBA, it's not like
telling them to scram alone would have probably been more than enough.
I would need a rifle. I'd need a bazooka to intimidate somebody. But yeah, you're Malik Beasley. Again, people are so quick to just whip out their guns, and things can go badly. Not only for you, if the rifle discharges, you could accidentally kill somebody, or somebody sees you with a firearm, they feel the right to pull theirs out, and then all of a sudden we've got an armed conflict and bullets might start flying. So, hopefully Malik Beasley learns something here, and hopefully other NBA players, pro athletes, and the rest of us learn. Maybe you want to not be so quick to pull out your firearm in a dispute, in a domestic dispute or a neighbor dispute.
He did say virtually before the judge that it was very uncharacteristic of him, that he is very sorry. He was also ordered, because he apparently had marijuana on him during the incident. So now he can no longer do drugs, which he shouldn't be doing anyway.
Well, you would think the marijuana would mellow him out.
I know.
Most weed, pot smokers don't whip out the rifle when something goes wrong. They laugh and want more Doritos typically.
Right. So that, no more alcohol, and he will be drug tested. Buddy, man, come on, man.
Yeah.
Be better than that. And why do you just carry a rifle around?
Well, I'm trying to remember, and I can't remember his name, and I'm sure somebody listening is going to. There was an NBA player maybe 8 years ago, in the locker room with other players playing poker, like after a practice, and he had a losing hand. It was going bad for him, so he whipped out a gun and was threatening other players on his own team with a gun. His name is escaping me.
Don't they walk through? Did they not have the
Apparently
security
not.
There that they have to walk through now?
During the break, I'll Google and figure out who that player was. It's been like 8 or 10 years since that incident. But
it bothers me when rich people make dumb decisions.
Yes. Yeah. Well, and especially, it's like I say this often a lot about professional athletes. These guys like Malik Beasley, since he's been in middle school, everything's gone his way. He's gotten what he's wanted because he was the best athlete in middle school, the best athlete in high school, best athlete one and done, and now he is like the best athlete for the Timberwolves. So they're not used to being told no, and when things go bad, they either throw a tantrum or, in this case, whip out a rifle. So yeah, it's time to pay the piper. Gilbert Arenas, thank you, Mooses. It was Gilbert Arenas in a poker game with other teammates. Things were not going well, so he just whipped out his Glock and started threatening people.
I don't understand. Was he charged for that?
I think he was charged. Yeah.
I mean,
I think
your own teammates.
Yeah. Chris Gonzalez had that, as did John Williams, as did. See, that's why
in a game of poker.
I appreciate Facebook Live, because it's like I can't remember Gilbert Arenas, but 3 people can. So thank you. So Shannon, outstanding. Is that the salty shakedown in its entirety?
That is the salty shakedown for the day. So there was no Mavs talk. There was no National Anthem talk, but we should update the poll.
Yes.
Now that I've brought it up. We're still getting a high percentage of no votes for if you support Dallas Mavericks' decision to no longer play the National Anthem before their games.
Going to be I said this earlier, and I agree. In fact, Rebecca, I'm going to read a comment from Facebook Live. Rebecca Lewis Best writes about, and if you're just tuning in, Mark Cuban and the Dallas Mavericks are not playing the National Anthem this season. They've been doing that for a number of home games, but nobody really noticed because there were no fans yet. So Rebecca is writing to us on Facebook Live, unbelievable. If you don't stand for the USA, get out. Show some respect for the country that has given you freedom and opportunity. Shameful. And the players now I'm reading that comment on a platform that doesn't give me the rest of what she said. Okay. And then ... That's going to be a major reaction, Shannon. So what I want to know is, are advertisers going to pull out of the Mavericks, and I guess there's not a lot of fans, so I guess there wouldn't be a huge season ticket holder backlash. But if it continues beyond COVID into next season, are you going to see some fans kind of turn away from the Mavericks? It's going to be interesting to see if that happens.
Well, if the Mavericks haven't already turned away fans with their awful play, this might add to it.
You're hanging with them. You're a Mavs fan.
Yeah. And this, again, it's so fresh, right? I mean, we are just now realizing that this is even happening. The conversation is just beginning, and it's just beginning with the Mavs. I mean, there's other teams now that may think, oh, we want to do that too. And I also think, we see the National Anthem before the Super Bowl, before playoff games, things like that. But during the regular season, TV broadcasts typically take you away from that. Radio broadcasts typically take you away from that. Or do people not get upset by that because the radio and the TV audience is bigger than what's actually in an arena? That's
a great point.
And they only show it during major events and not your everyday game. So there's both sides can make great points. I don't know that there is a right or wrong in this situation. It's just something that's going to have to be discussed, and ultimately a decision will have to be made, because it's too divisive not to come to some sort of conclusion.
Look at Jeremy Fouts going from Black Sabbath and Electric Funeral to Steely Dan. My goodness. He is eclectic. He is all over the place. He's a madman. Your soundscape stylist, Jeremy Fouts. Big 8 o'clock hour. We might even grab Tanner Carlson, a fellow Mavericks fan, along with Shannon Salty Sweeney. Bill Schoening, the voice of the San Antonio Spurs. Your phone calls, if you want to react with us, 800-707-9760. He is Jeremy Fouts, the pride of Oklahoma Christian University. She is Shannon Salty Sweeney. I'm Chris. We're with you till 9. Thanks for hanging out with us. You're listening to the Chris Duel Show. Oh, I have to sneeze. Wow. Setting a sneezing record. Again, when you call Bill, he may be asleep. So just leave a message, say, hey, and just let him know we realize you had a late night, no biggie. But if you want to call back, fine. If not, that's okay too. So I texted him to that effect. Oh, he texted me back, said, I'll be ready. So we got him. So there's the answer. Time for more coffee. Thank you, Armando. John McGee says, I didn't even know what eclectic meant until a few years ago at work. I played country, then oldies, and then Judas Priest. And the COO called me eclectic and explained what it meant. Funny. All right. Coffee time. I bring in my own coffee because the coffee they make here, not always delightful. I've told the story. There's someone here who washes out like the coffee maker. And once Tanner goes, what does this coffee taste like to you? And it tasted soapy, like soap. It's like, I don't need no soapy coffee. So I bring my own, but then I got to heat it in the microwave. So I'm going to go do that. Be right back. Yeah, Xavier Moreno, that's my point, is if people reacted to Colin Kaepernick in a certain way, and the president at the time called NFL players who took a knee sons of bitches, what now about an owner who does away with the national anthem? How many people are going to freak out about that? All right, I'm going to get my coffee. I'll be right back.
Yeah, Luis, so the Texas game was on ESPN Plus, which I think then again goes to them not believing in Texas either. Because of all the ESPN channels, they didn't put a ranked team on national TV.
Woo! Okay, Bill Schoening of the Spurs coming on. Say what?
Just so you know, I got Bill, and he has a rodeo road trip song.
Oh, that's great. So do you have it?
Yes, sir.
How'd you get it? Email it to you?
He emailed it.
Oh, huge. That's great. Bill Schoening. Spurs talk. Got to put my Spurs glasses on. Woo! Here we go. We have a Spurs rodeo road trip song from Bill Schoening.
Now, Chris Duel.
You made it to Wednesday. You made it to the midpoint of the week, Wednesday, February 10th. And the San Antonio Spurs, even though it was a tough night last night and a rough third quarter, and they wound up losing to the Golden State Warriors last night, 114-91, they have made it to the rodeo road trip, a 7-game rodeo road trip beginning for the Spurs Friday night in Atlanta. And while most fans in most seasons would go, 7-game road trip, well, this year, so far, the Spurs 7-3 on the road. So if they keep playing like they've been playing on the road, it might be a very successful rodeo road trip. Welcome in. It's the Chris Duel Show along with Shannon Salty Sweeney. And every Wednesday, we love checking in with the voice of the San Antonio Spurs, who would normally be going on this rodeo road trip, the one and only Bill Schoening. Bill, welcome back in. How you doing this morning?
Very good, Chris. And it is going to be kind of weird not packing my bags because this has been a ritual now since the days of the AT&T Center, the SBC Center, right? During the 02-03 season, the Spurs have made this annual road trip, and they've been very successful most seasons going out on the road. So it is a little strange not to be packing the bags today.
Well, and a lot of people don't think about that, Bill. They think, well, the team, the Spurs, are going on this road trip. You know, staff, personnel, coaches, assistant coaches. I mean, it's a long trip for a lot of people, and you've been through quite a few of them.
Yeah, and of course this year it's a little bit different. I don't think I'm so heartbroken that I'm not traveling since we'd all be sequestered in a hotel anyway. So it's a little bit different when you don't have the freedom to go out and see some old friends or family members wherever you happen to be. I know several times we've gone to Salt Lake City, for instance, during the trip. My older son Eric's a meteorologist in Salt Lake City and does stats for me, so I always look forward to going up there and seeing him. And going to Philadelphia, where I grew up, seeing a lot of family and friends there. So, and the same thing is true with the players. Wherever they're from, in a lot of these cities, they've got some old friends or some family members, and they can't go see those guys right now this year either. So. It's like Rudy Gay said a few weeks ago, we're not going to visit cities, we're going to visit hotels. And so it's basically, plane, hotel, arena, back to the plane, and back to wherever the next city is. So I imagine it's a little bit more of a challenge for the players. And although Pop said last night, now they can concentrate solely on basketball and not worry about some outside stuff. And maybe they can get a practice or two in some of these road games, road cities, and, see if they can try to improve during this rodeo road trip.
He's the voice of the San Antonio Spurs, Bill Schoening. And Bill, I was telling Shannon about what you have said. I asked you earlier in the week, the Spurs and so many other NBA teams winning on the road, winning more on the road, it seems, this season. And as you just mentioned, teams that go on the road now sequestered because of COVID-19. And so they're actually the ones who might be more laser focused on the game at hand than the home team that's sleeping in their own beds, home with their own families, doing what they do at home. It's almost that plus the lack of fans in the stands. It's kind of flipped the dynamic for road teams.
So you have a lot of these home series, like we just saw with the Golden State Warriors, and teams start to get comfortable in the other buildings that they've been there. It's almost like a playoff series, like you and I were mentioning last night during our pregame show. That you make adjustments from one game to the next and maybe try to play a little bit better. But yeah, it is a whole different dynamic now this season. There's no question about the fact that COVID-19 has had an impact on what's going on the floor.
Bill, something else Pop apparently said last night to Steve Kerr after the game was that he had been considering Steph Curry for the Olympic roster, as Pop is the head coach for the Olympics. But after what he did to the Spurs and embarrassed them last night, he said, I'm no longer considering him. Steve Kerr had a laugh at that. I'm sure Steph did too once he heard that. Xavier over on our Facebook wants to know, did they play with the rotation at all, do you think, last night to maybe see what they could get against the Golden State Warriors should the two meet in the playoffs?
Derek White not being able to play in a back-to-back because of his fractured toe. He's come back from that injury, but he's not cleared yet to play both nights of a back-to-back. So he played in the first game, did not play last night. Lonnie Walker had missed a couple of games with a stomach ailment. He came back last night. Didn't look like he was quite himself last night. Lonnie was only 0 for 5 in the field, played just under 18 minutes. So started Devin Vassell, the rookie from Florida State, got his first start. So I don't think he was toying with his rotation so much as just trying to figure out what he had. Plus, he knew that Lonnie was on a minutes restriction. I think he had a 20-minute restriction last night. Ended up playing 18 minutes, as I mentioned. So it was kind of out of necessity that he had to mess around, or not mess around, but to do a little bit different deal with rotation. Now, of course, Trey Lyles came in. He hadn't played a lot lately, and he played very well last night. I thought he was 5 of 8 in the field. He had 15 points and 6 rebounds, and he ended up playing 26 minutes last night.
He's the voice of the San Antonio Spurs, Bill Schoening. And Bill, on the broadcast last night, on the pregame, we heard from DeJounte Murray, who just had the unbelievable game 2 nights ago, 27 points, 10 rebounds, 8 steals, a career-high 8 steals. I think I also heard 8 steals is the high in the NBA this season. And so we not only heard from him, but we heard Coach Greg Popovich in pregame talking about DeJounte Murray and DeJounte's willingness to learn, his willingness to be not only instructed, but to take constructive criticism from Coach Greg Popovich. In fact, even saying to him, hey, get on me. If you see something you don't get on me, I want to learn. Pretty amazing when you got a guy with DeJounte Murray's skill set and upside in the NBA who is willing to take that kind of criticism and realizes it's good for him. To me, it's kind of reminiscent of a Tim Duncan, of a Tony Parker, and of a Manu Ginobili.
It really reminds me of Tony Parker a lot because they play the same position, point guard. And remember, Pop stayed on Tony pretty hard, too. Now, Tony had to really learn the baptism by fire because he was just a 19-year-old rookie out of France. And very early in his rookie year, Pop put him in the starting lineup ahead of veterans like Terry Porter, Antonio Daniels. So there were some players with NBA experience where Tony had to come in and learn on the fly, and Pop stayed on him pretty well. But he knew that he had kind of the special gem right there that he had to shine up a little bit. And Tony, of course, was able to handle that criticism and that critique and, make himself an all-star player and eventually turn into an NBA Hall of Famer. One of the things that DeJounte Murray has done is ask Pop to stay on him, as you mentioned. Tell me when I'm doing something wrong. I want to learn. I want to improve. And I think that he has learned how to be a leader on this ball club because of that. Because of the fact that he's willing to take coaching from Pop. That makes it easier for the younger guys to understand, hey, this guy's been around 5 years in the program, and Pop's getting on him. I've got to take it when it gets on me when I make a mistake over my first or second year.
He's the voice of the San Antonio Spurs, Bill Schoening. And Bill, one of the many fun things about you is as a singer-songwriter, sometimes you draw inspiration from the Spurs themselves, from their road trips, and you've written about the international road trips before, but you've also written about the rodeo road trip, and I understand that we've got one of your rodeo road trip songs that we can play this morning.
Through the years, I think I've written 3 of them. I used to bring the guitar on the road because it's such a long trip, So back in 2013, when the Spurs were rolling, of course, with Manu, Tim, and Tony, and winning a lot of games on the rodeo road trip back then on a very consistent basis, I wrote a song called Adios Auf Wiedersehen. And one of the reasons I wrote that song is because of all the international influence of the team with guys from different countries, speaking different languages. So I thought, well, how many different ways can I say goodbye in a foreign language? So I incorporated that into a melody and a tune, and we had some fun. There's a really cool video that the Spurs did, too, on this song. You can Google Adios Auf Wiedersehen, Schoening, or you can go to YouTube and look it up as well. But we had a lot of fun with the song. A guy named Steven Doster produced it for me, and he's got a really nice recording studio. He lives out in Blanco now. Yeah, we had a lot of fun. I brought in some top-notch musicians like I always do when we did this song in the studio back, 8 years ago now.
Wait, it's so funny, Bill, that you say about the video already on Facebook Live. A few minutes ago already, a listener, Bernard Trefan, posted the video so the people joining us on Facebook Live can see the video. We're going to play it now, and then we'll get Bill's thoughts on the other side of it. This is Bill Schoening with Adios Auf Wiedersehen, inspired by the Spurs and the rodeo road trip. Here it is.
I didn't hear. We have about 3.5 families and friends. Make way for ropers and rodeo clowns. Livestock is here. We're leaving town. Adios, Auf Wiedersehen. Au revoir, ciao. Not straight working, but we'll get through somehow. No matter how you say it, we bid you adieu. Arrivederci, sayonara too. We started mini. Forecast of snow, then off to Motown, it's Hitsville, you know. Next stop is Brooklyn, man, we get around. And then Chicago, it's my kind of town. Adios, Auf Wiedersehen, au revoir, ciao. Now straight road game. We'll get through somehow. No matter how you say it, we bid you adieu. Arrivederci, sayonara too. All Stephen Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Out to Sacktown, get some sleep on the plane. The trips in LA, then Golden State. We rap in Phoenix, then celebrate. Adios, Auf Wiedersehen, au revoir, ciao. Now straight road games, we'll get through somehow. No matter how you say it, we bid you adieu. Arrivederci, sayonara too. Arrivederci, sayonara too.
Yeah, Bill Schoening.
Wow.
Adios Auf Wiedersehen. Very nice, Bill. That was tremendous.
Well, thank you very much, Chris. That was a while back. We wrote 3 of those songs, but we had fun with that one. And yeah, I took 3 years of German in high school. I still remember Ich erinnere dein bisschen. I remember. Yeah, Adios Auf Wiedersehen. It was we just had a lot of fun with that one, going to the studio doing that. And I always had a lot of good friends, musician friends, playing piano, drums, keyboards, electric guitars. We just pulled out all the stops in that one.
Very, very cool. And working with you, Bill, you talk about having, taken German and having traveled internationally. One of the things I've always marveled about you, the NBA is so international, that I butcher so many pronunciations of international players, and you are a stickler for getting it right, and you always seem to get it right. And so I always appreciate. I always try to listen to how you pronounce a guy's name so that I can try to at least get close, but I don't get nearly as close as you do.
Right. Well, it's funny because remember we played in Turkey a few years back, and that team was crazy. Mela Mamatoğlu, now in the NBA. Izzet Turkey Yilmaz, they were all on that ball club. And then we played a team from Greece with Lakis Mavrakopoulos. They also had a Lithuanian named Sarunas Yatsikevičius, and Paul Castro, who does Spanish for us, asked me help on the pronunciation. I said Yatsikevičius. He said, "Is that like yes, we have cabbages?" It's kind of like yes, we have cabbages. So at the end of the game, he said, "Yes, we had 16 points tonight." I said, "Who?" He said, "Yes, we have cabbages." That's a good game.
Have you ever given anyone a nickname, Bill? With Pat Mahomes, or Patrick, as his mom likes to say, because she does not like the nickname, the shortened version of his name, Pat Mahomes, that a lot of announcers use. Have you ever given anyone a nickname that they've either loved or just said, "Hey, man, stop"?
Oh, no, I try not to give out nicknames. I try to play with nicknames that are already there, Every once in a while, when Manu would make a great basket, I would call him Emmanuel David de Ginobili because that was his name, Emmanuel David. No, I let nicknames come with somebody else. I might have a little bit of a theme. I remember when we had Boban Marjanovic, and I have no idea why this happened, but in a preseason game, and of course, Boban was a favorite, he slam dunked the ball, and I don't know what came over me, but I said, "From Serbia with love." Because, there was a movie From Russia with Love, right, Chris?
Yeah.
But I don't know why that came out. So after the game, I saw Boban, and I said, Boban, I don't know why, but when you dunked, I said, "From Serbia with love." He goes, "This, I love this. I love these. You keep up these." So he wanted me to keep saying "From Serbia with love." And we have a fan named Jane Ann Craig who makes signs and at the arena. And when she heard "From Serbia with love," she made a portrait of Boban and put the sign up. So whenever Boban dunked, she would have that sign, "From Serbia with love." And no matter what team Boban plays for, we still love him because he's been with several teams now. He's with the Dallas Mavericks now, but he's certainly a fan favorite, not only in San Antonio where he started, but all around the NBA, wherever he played, LA, Detroit, Philadelphia, now Dallas.
Well, and that's the other cool thing that you do, Bill, and I've seen other banners and signs from Spurs fans is, for example, for 3-point shots, that's a Manu Trace or "Good day, mate" when Patty Mills makes a 3-point shot. And invariably, people hear your call and you wind up seeing, when fans are there, signs in the stands from Spurs fans echoing, what you have called their 3-point shot, or in the case of Boban, his slam dunk.
Yeah, Boban didn't shoot many threes, did he?
No.
But I think he probably could have hit some. He actually has some skills. He can shoot. But we have fun. It's one thing I really missed this year, Chris, to be honest with you, is the interaction with fans because they're not there. And, normally we'd have a chance to chat for a minute with a fan or two and come up and take a picture or whatever from my little broadcast perch. But hopefully at some point fans will be allowed back in the building. It'll be safe, and we'll be able to get that home court advantage back.
Absolutely. We look forward to that. Hope sooner than later, hopefully. Finally, Bill, we love to talk to you about the Longhorns as well. You spent so much time as the voice of the Texas Longhorns. Now 20 years ago, for 20 years now, you've been the voice of the San Antonio Spurs. But the Horns basketball team last night, going into the game, Shannon and I were saying, all right, Longhorns are going to get well because Kansas State's not that good. They go to Kansas State last night and escape with an 80-77 win. Are we? Do we get to a point as we move deeper into February with the Big 12 tournament and March Madness further down the road? Do you get to a point where a team isn't going to, we talked about improvement with you last time, but at what point do you start to worry that, maybe you're not going to reach the level that you need to be at if you're going to go deep in these tournaments?
Plugging away, the Big 12 has a lot of balance. I think there's some good teams. Obviously, K-State's been struggling, but they had a lead last night. And if I'm not mistaken, I just read a quick story about the game because we had our own game last night, so I didn't get a chance to watch or listen. But they hit free throws last night, right? I mean, it's an area where they've really struggled this year at times. And yet they hit some clutch free throws last night to help put the game away. So that was a good sign. So I think when you're Shaka Smart and you're a coach of a team that's been doing well and then starts to struggle a little bit, you look for little things to kind of build on. And the fact that they were able to hit some free throws last night, that's important. So, hey, it's a road win, and you take it and you move on. You try to build from that.
Yeah, good point. It was a win, so that's what you need at this point, no matter who you are. Bill Schoening, always outstanding, sir, and a special medal to you. You did last night's broadcast at the AT&T Center. You didn't get out of there till after 10:30. Then you drive all the way to Austin. Don't get there till at least midnight, and then you're doing radio with us at 8 a.m. So especially the night after a Spurs broadcast, we appreciate your taking the time with us, Bill. Always so much fun. Thanks so much. We appreciate it.
Thank you very much, Chris. Appreciate you.
All right, Bill Schoening, the voice of the San Antonio Spurs, and he'll have the broadcast once again. Next Spurs game, beginning the rodeo road trip. That'll be Friday night at Atlanta. And off the top of my head, I think that's a 6:30 tip-off, so pregame at 6 o'clock on Friday night on the Spurs radio network. And Shannon, Bill talking about Boban Marjanovic, and he was such a Spurs fan favorite. Do Mavericks fans love Boban as much as Spurs fans did?
It's hard to love him when you have Luka and Kristaps. You do, but he's just not the name, and those other two guys are just so lovable and fun.
So he's third on the lovable chart.
I would say third, yeah.
Behind Luka and Kristaps.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, he's so cool. And he does some funny social media. Do you follow Boban on like Instagram or TikTok? I see him doing some funny stuff.
I tend to not follow athletes. I just happen to come across them quite a bit. So I'm sure at some point I have.
You tend to not follow athletes.
Because, a lot of the times it's just not content that I care to see. Every now and then something good gets posted, but
yeah, you're quite critical of one Tom Brady on social media. So I kind of see that.
Well, people blow his up.
Yes.
Can't not see it.
Good point.
I'm still waiting for his post Super Bowl video, by the way.
And maybe he'll do something from the boat parade.
That's right. So yeah, he hasn't wrapped that up yet.
We might see something there. All right. Final half hour coming up. We will revisit what is, I think, the big sports topic of the day, and it's become a national topic as well. Mark Cuban and the Dallas Mavericks choosing not to do a national anthem before their games this year. In fact, we might grab a fellow Mavericks fan along with Shannon, Tanner Carlson. How does he feel about this? That and a whole lot more. We're with you till 9. Thanks for hanging out with us. Jeremy Fouch, your soundscape stylist. She is Shannon Salty Sweeney. I'm Chris. It's the Chris Duel Show. Woo! Wow, Bobby Henry. Bobby says, I see now why I call the Dallas Mavericks the Mav Pricks. Ouch, Bobby. You're insulting Shannon's team. Kevin Monk calls them the Mav Chicks. Dawn Bartlett Hall. Dawn, we got to get you on the show. When's the next big... You sent me something about NASCAR and Daytona. We got to get you on the show, Dawn. Let me know when you've got things you want to talk about. For those of you who don't know, that is Track Smack Dawn. Wow. Monday forecast in Dallas, 19 for the high, 7 for the low. Yeah, Dawn, on my app from the Weather Channel, San Antonio, 50% chance of snow on Monday. I think 19 for the low, 27 or 34 for the high. Let me check that.
My dad just texted me to say you need to make contingency plans to work remote on Monday.
Yeah.
And he also said Friday and Tuesday, but most likely Monday.
So, Dawn, you want to come on Friday and preview the 500? Does that make sense? So, yeah, 50% chance. Oh, now it's a low of 16 on Monday in San Antonio. 34 for a high on Monday, 16 for a low, 50% chance of snow. And I just happen to have Austin on my app. Excuse me. Where did Austin go? There's Austin. 60% chance of snow in Austin on Monday, 14 for a low, 30 for a high. And then next Thursday, a 40% chance of snow in Austin. Wow. Okay, Tanner wrote me back. Is he... Let's see. Or I thought he wrote me back. I just saw something. Okay. Tanner can't make it. Yeah, I figured he's got his reporting to do this morning, and I hadn't pre-booked him. So no Tanner. That's fine. We'll talk to him tomorrow. Yeah, Tanner has his other job to concern himself with. Yeah, Yolanda. Amen. Yolanda says, pray for all essential workers who still have to work through possible snow. Absolutely. Yeah, I'm trying to think, Dawn. I got on Fridays... I got Paul Alexander usually at 7. We do Paul. And I think I was going to ask James Allen. He usually does like an 8:35. So maybe 8:06 on Friday, Dawn. We'll talk about it. John Williams says, how about Gylan Jackson? I love Gylan Jackson. Yeah, we'd love to get him on the show. However... Last time I had Gylan Jackson on, and first of all, I love him. But for whatever the reason, I brought him on thinking there was like a topic he was going to sound off on. And he says, well, I actually haven't been watching much sports lately for about the last month. And we're like, really? We're bringing you on a sports talk show and you're telling me you haven't been watching sports lately? So, but he's generally outstanding. I love him. He's great. Mike Nash, did you get those new Spurs Budweisers from HEB? I haven't, Mike, but I've seen them. They look real cool. Like Spurs Budweiser cans. Right now, drizzle and 41 in Austin. See what San Antonio, cloudy and 52. 100% chance of thunderstorms tomorrow in San Antonio. %40 chance of snow on Monday. 18 for a low. I need springtime. I am not built for winter. Armando says send some to Kentucky. Well, there you go. Moose says Spurs Budweiser and Spurs Sherbet. I call it a Riverwalk float. Very nice. Here we come. Welcome in to the Chris Duel Show. We appreciate your hanging out with us. I'm Chris. She is Shannon Salty Sweeney. Jeremy Fouts is your soundscape stylist, doing a bang-up job as he always does. Shannon is a Dallas Mavericks fan. The Dallas Mavericks and owner Mark Cuban are in the news this morning. And what's interesting about this story is, I mean, if you're Mark Cuban and if you're the Mavericks, this isn't new. You've been doing it all season, but nobody really noticed until now. So now it blows up and becomes a story. The Dallas Mavericks have not been playing the national anthem before their games this season. And there are, according to the reporting, there's no plans to play it in the future. And we've talked about this a lot this morning, and it's a big story. It's trending on Twitter. Fox News, in addition to the impeachment story, is giving it a lot of coverage. I imagine as you listen to sports talk radio or if you watch sports talk shows on television throughout the day, this is going to be a big story. From your perspective, Shannon, and I know we're speculating until we hear from Mark Cuban, and you've made the point we might not hear from Mark Cuban on this, but he's so media savvy and he tends to be available. I have a feeling we will, but what do you think the motivation was here? I mean, it is an unprecedented move in major American professional sports. This will go down as the first team to stop performing the national anthem before games. Where do you think this came from Mark Cuban's perspective?
I would think he had a conversation with the players before he made any decision, because especially right when there were no fans there, they're the only ones there. They're the ones having to stand through it and put their hand over their chest or not. We saw what happened during the bubble, a lot of kneeling and such, and rightfully so. But without, I guess, that audience, and again, they don't always broadcast on TV the national anthem, so they don't need it for a TV moment. Or do they need it for each other to stand there, especially if most of them either don't believe in it at the moment or feel like it stands for what they're fighting for. And now I'm kind of starting to guess, this is only a story now because a few fans are now allowed back in the stands.
Yeah.
Are other places where fans aren't there yet? Are they not playing? Are the Spurs playing the national anthem before home games?
It's a good question. I think so.
So, to each his own right now. And like we said, the league this year has allowed teams to make up their mind on that, because the league does have a rule that regularly they do have to play the national anthem before tip. But because of COVID and the fact that there's just really nobody in the stadiums, they don't have to this year. So I don't know if for the Mavs to say we're not going to be playing the national anthem for the foreseeable future means the future of just this season, or if we are thinking of getting rid of it altogether in seasons to come.
And it is kind of interesting. And, in so many cases, a business decision, you then let the market decide. Mm-hmm. So in other words, for Mavericks fans, once they all start coming back to the arena, and once we all get vaccinated and we eventually, hopefully sooner than later, get back to some kind of normalcy, how many Mavericks fans are going to be okay with there not being a national anthem versus how many Maverick fans are going to go, hey, I'm a fan, I'm a season ticket holder, I want the national anthem. And I would imagine, you tend to give your fans and your customers, ultimately it's a business, and ultimately a good business is about customer service. So you ultimately give your customers what they want. So it's probably a lot of the future as to whether or not there will be national anthems at Mavericks games will be determined by the fan base. Here in San Antonio, Shannon, we call San Antonio Military City, USA, because there have been so many A, military bases in San Antonio, and B, military personnel and military families. I think if the Spurs chose not to play the national anthem, I think there'd be a lot of blowback here in San Antonio. So it's going to just kind of be interesting to see the reaction among Mavericks fans.
Right. And our poll question today, do you support the Dallas Mavericks decision to no longer play the national anthem? The yes and no votes are coming together a little bit. No vote now down to 53%, yet still leading the way. But the overall arching, it's not as simple as yes or no, right? Because there are these conversations that we need to have around what it stands for. Why are you standing? Why are you not standing? What does it mean? And what does it mean when it was created? What does it mean to today? Where is it best involved when it comes to sports? How necessary? All these things, so it's not this yes and no. It's fun to do it in a poll. That's one way to, but as you say, they need to get the perspective of everyone involved, from their advertisers to their fans who are there to buy tickets, watch the games, listen to the games, to their players who are the central unit to the entire team. This kind of reminds me of Jerry Jones, right? Didn't he say that the Cowboys would not kneel, but they would link arms, right, to show unity? But Jerry Jones, the ultimate market man, that was probably at the forefront of his mind, right? Was I do fine. I make tons and tons of money, but I certainly don't want to lose money. And I don't want to lose sponsors because they're unhappy with a decision that seemed to be at that time, you're either going to do it or you're not going to do it. Well, that's a big decision to make in such a short amount of time. And I liked the locking of the arms, that show of unity, rather than kneeling. I liked that a bit better. But again, like you said, it's going to have to be a conversation between multiple parties for them to really decide if they do in fact get rid of the national anthem going forward.
Luisa Alanis on Facebook Live just wrote, play the national anthem before the players get on the court. That's an interesting thought in that, and I'm thinking back to, the bubble in Orlando. We saw a lot of NBA players take a knee. The WNBA, a lot of WNBA players protested during the national anthem, and there was blowback for that. I saw on social media, some people would get a still shot of WNBA players and circle them and, say, how dare they? And this is disrespectful to the flag and to America. So it is kind of interesting. And I wonder what your thoughts are about that suggestion, play the national anthem before the players are on the court. Is it a cop-out to do that? Or are you actually saying, for those of you who are fans, who are going to come to the game and want to hear the national anthem. We're going to serve you by playing the national anthem at the arena while fans are in the stands, but just not when the players are out, because apparently a number of players have an issue with it or would want to silently protest during it. If you were advising Mark Cuban, Shannon, or any NBA team about when to play or if to play the national anthem, what do you think about the idea of playing it without the players out there on the court?
I think it could be an option, right? The NFL has allowed teams to stay in the locker room, or just players that would prefer to stay in the locker room. I believe the Steelers did it throughout most of the season, and then there was one player who would always come out of the tunnel and pay his respects, because that's what he felt he needed to do. I believe he was a service member. Again, it's the bigger conversation of what the national anthem means to individuals, and then what it means as a whole to really make these decisions, to not go out there during the national anthem, but the national anthem still be played. Well, then you're creating conversation around the team that maybe isn't a necessary one. We saw some teams in the bubble decide not to come out and participate in the national anthem. And at the heart of this is all because of, right, Kaepernick kneeling and him using that as a time to protest, because during the game, he is obviously playing football. There's no real other time during that moment where the camera's on him where he can have that moment. That was his moment. And now other athletes are also using that moment. So if you just take it away to try and get rid of protesting, I don't think that's going to work. They're just, there's going to be another way in which they're going to figure out how to do it, because these causes that they're protesting for are so important to them. They're important to the country. And for those that they aren't important to, they need to be important to. And that's part of the point of, hey, you need to pay attention. It's so much is being made of the actual national anthem that it's really not about the song itself. It's about taking the moment to look at our country in a broader lens, to right these injustices that we have going on right now.
Yeah, and clearly we have a very divided country, and this is just kind of an indicator of that. Got a comment here on Facebook Live, and if you're new to the show, we stream live video on Ticket 760 and AM 1300, The Zone's Facebook page. And one of the cool things about that is not only can you watch and participate on the video, but you can comment and we can read your comments. Anthony Del Toro writes this just a few seconds ago on Facebook Live. He wrote, as an athlete growing up, standing to the national anthem before a game always stirred up amazing emotions inside, knowing how privileged we were to play a game we love in our beautiful country. I carried that emotion through my Marine Corps days until now in my line of work when a veteran is being buried. Like someone said earlier, if you're against the anthem, leave our country and see if it's much better. And I mean, that is, I think a lot of people, Shannon, are going to have that reaction. As I mentioned, I'm one of the oldest guys, participating in this show. I'm older than dirt. And throughout my life at sporting events, even when I was a kid, you would hear the national anthem and then, play ball after the national anthem. It is such a tradition. And it is, I think, to a lot of people, such a part of the American fabric and part of our sports experience. I think it's going to be jarring for a lot of fans to have it go away, if it goes away on a broad scale.
Yeah, it's almost like, okay, what do you do in between the time that is pregame and the start of the game, right? It's almost, that's where everyone almost resets and says, okay, it's game time. And you have this song played, and then you get into your actions for the game. So I don't. What transition do you then make? You just, all right, everyone just rips off the warm-ups and let's do this thing. I don't know. And then again, with the Olympics coming up, it's also a great conversation to have because, obviously the Olympics, that to me is a moment whenever an American has won gold and the national anthem is played, and I'm at home, eating donuts on my couch, like, oh, look at that guy. I wish I'm going to be like her when I grow up. But obviously, I'm eating donuts, and I will never get there and get to stay on that podium. But they are representing their country.
Donut eating might become an Olympic sport someday.
If it is, sign me up.
Yes,
sign me up.
Well, no, and as you say that, Shannon, I'm reminded
something bigger, right?
Yeah. How many times have we seen an Olympic athlete an American Olympic athlete standing there during the medal ceremony, hearing that anthem and just getting super emotional.
Right.
I mean, it's such an emotional thing. I'm representing my country. I just won gold, bronze, or silver, and they're playing the anthem, and I am now crying because there's such a huge emotional aspect attached to the song itself and what it represents.
Right, because you are, and that'll be, again, we talked about Pop going and being the Olympic coach. So many of the star NBA players were ones who knelt and protest and wore T-shirts during the bubble to fight for injustices. It'll be interesting if they do go to the Olympics, if they do win gold, if they do have that moment to have the national anthem play while they are awarded that gold medal, what their actions will be at that point.
Well, Shannon, an outstanding show, an outstanding salty shakedown earlier.
Thank you,
we'll do
sir.
this again in 21 hours.
Yes.
Are you ready for the snow that's going to hit Austin in about 5 days?
I am not. I'm setting up contingency plans as we speak.
Yeah, next Monday, 60% chance of snow in Austin, 40% chance of snow in San Antonio. I'm already complaining about it. Our thanks to Jeremy Fouts. Jeremy, great job as always. You demand. All right. Our thanks to Bill Schoening, the voice of the San Antonio Spurs. Keep following Shannon on Twitter at Shannon B. Sweeney. Jeremy is at SATX Foxy Grandpa. I am at Chris Duel. And we'll keep an eye on this Mavericks Mark Cuban story throughout the day. I got a feeling there's going to be a lot of reaction all day long. And we'll see if we hear from Mark Cuban before tomorrow's show. Have yourself a great Wednesday. See you in 21 hours. Bye.